Hello everyone, this is Professor Quine and this is the part of speech webinar about modifiers. Actually, this webinar will cover two parts of speech, the adverb and the adjective. These are two separate parts of speech, both of them described as modifiers by most people who teach grammar. Most students are, very quick to explain to me what an adjective is, but many students don't seem to know what an adverb is, and I always kind of found that perplexing because if you look at the word adverb, it tells you what it does. It adds to a verb, right? If I split the word, it adds to a verb. So basically, what is an adverb? It modifies a verb. Now, most adverbs, not all, most adverbs, in fact, let me italicize the word most. Okay, most adverbs end in the suffix ly. So let's talk about, I don't know, the classic example I use in my class is Liberty Heights Avenue. Most of us, most of you, take at least one class on campus at BCCC. And again, I'm talking, I recorded this mostly for my BCC students, my Baltimore City Community College students. However, students from some other colleges could be listening to this. So let me just clarify and say that at BCCC, the Liberty campus, which is our main campus, we have a very busy road that runs in front of the campus, and that road is called Liberty Heights Avenue. So every now and then I have to do this. And I bet you've had to do it too. Cross Liberty Heights Avenue. What do? I cross. There's my verb, right? So I'm going to underline that twice because we know that when we diagram, we generally underline verbs twice. And who's doing the crossing? I am. And so there's my subject. And remember that the subject of a sentence can be a noun, proper, common, or gerund, or a subject pronoun. So this is a subject pronoun. So I've got my subject and my verb identified. Now, when I cross Liberty Heights Avenue, do I do it slowly? Probably not, unless there's, unless it's a very different day on Liberty Heights Avenue, because generally you have all kinds of traffic there. Probably what I do, I maybe carefully cross Liberty Heights Avenue, or perhaps I cautiously cross Liberty Heights Avenue. And if you are me and you're scared of crossing Liberty Heights Avenue, you quickly cross Liberty Heights Avenue. So there you go. I just gave you a series of adverbs: carefully, cautiously, quickly. All of those are ly adverbs that tell us how we cross. So that's, the quick and dirty on adverbs, okay? All right, now let's move over to the part of speech that I think that most students do know, and that is, I'm trying to get my sentence to move over there, is the adjective. I'm going to seize the moment to, first of all, define what an adjective is, and then to explain some grammatical concepts that we will need to know more about as we move through these webinars and approach compound sentences. So I'm going to start, setting that groundwork for you now for the compound sentence. Okay, so let's talk about what is an adjective. Well, an adjective, and you probably know this by heart, an adjective modifies or describes a noun, and that's where most people stop. I'm going to add something or another adjective. Let's talk about that, okay? First of all, you need to know these concepts, first of all, or at least these terms. I think most of you know what this is. Singular equals one, right? Compound, and you heard me talk about a compound sentence a second ago, that equals two. That's what in grammar, when we say compound, we mean two. And series in grammar means three, okay? When we create a series in grammar, at least in my classes, I teach students to use something called the Oxford comma. So let's say we have a series of nouns. John and Paul and Sam. Now, wouldn't you say that I could also say Paul, Sam, and John, or any variation there, any kind of configuration of those? I think you would agree that I can, because you see, those are coordinates. What a coordinate is something that is equal in importance. And if it's equal in importance and it's in a series, and often, not always, in a compound, you can change their placement around, just as I just suggested doing with changing those names around to be in a different order. And if you can do that, they're considered to be coordinate. Now, we usually don't run around talking about, John and Paul and Sam and Tim, and usually what we do is we replace what? That first and then in my class, before you finish the series, and it doesn't matter how long the series is, okay, but before you finish that series, you're going to use the Oxford comma, and I just put it in for you. Do you see that comma, that last comma there? That's the Oxford comma. Some grammar books are saying that you don't have to use it anymore, but I find that when students stop using it, they start to create series that are kind of confusing. So I want you to continue using that Oxford comma. Okay, so there's some concepts. Singular is 1, compound is 2, series is 3 or more. I should have clarified that. And the Oxford comma. I've talked to you about what coordination is, and of course if that's equal importance, something that is non-coordinate or even called subordinate is what? Not of equal importance. Okay, so getting back then to the adjective, what's that got to do with the adjective? Well, remember, an adjective can modify a noun or another adjective. Well, how would that happen? Well, let's talk about maybe a noun like this. Now let's use tent. Tent is a noun, right? It's the name of something, so there's a noun. And let's say I have a tent that is, I don't know, green and blue and purple. I've got a really colorful tent. Okay. Now, as we just talked, discussed, a series of coordinate items can be reorganized so that they take different positions, take one another's positions. So I can say green, blue, and purple, or purple, green, and blue, or blue, green, it doesn't matter. These items, like most colors in our language, are considered to be coordinate of equal importance, and you can change them around. So in that case, what I can do is I can separate, these are coordinate adjectives, so I can separate them with commas, right? There you go. All right, and notice that Oxford comma. But what if I threw in the word old? Whoops, there we go. Okay, what if I threw in the word old? Now, you probably have heard somebody say green, blue, and purple old tent, but let's face it, that's really not correct English. We all know that. We all know that the way we would structure this would be old, green, blue, and purple tent. Why? Why is old out there in the front? Because it's not considered to be as important as those colors, okay? In our language, things like color and, I don't know, ethnicity, race, all those other things, they're considered to be the things that more closely, I don't know, describe, modify, and words like old, young, whatever, yeah, they're good descriptors, but they're not as important, okay? So it's not considered to be as coordinate as green, blue, and purple. So we're going to put old out in the front. As far, it's not as close to tent, the noun being modified, as those other adjectives. It's not as close, period. It's not considered to be one of the inner circle, the close friends, okay? So old then is a subordinate adjective that is modifying all of these other adjectives and the noun, okay? Now, what if I had the word woman? Well, I think we all agree that woman is a noun, right? And let's say this woman that I know is, let's see, smart, young, and African American. And I said to you, okay, there's 3 adjectives. Tell me how you would order them up in front of that noun woman. And we have, and I know we've actually done this in class. Some of you who are listening to this have already heard this example, seen this example up on the board, and we've discussed it. But anyway, what we discovered is that you would put African American closest to woman because it's like the major, the most important describer, if you will. Okay, you probably would not say African American smart young woman, right? You would probably say smart young African American woman, or maybe you would say young smart African American woman, but that African American description would be closest to woman. So that is the more important thing, the more important modifier here, okay? So that is non-coordinate with smart and young, right? It can't be switched around with smart and young. It's got to be closest to woman, all right? Smart and young, though, can be switched around. Remember I said I could say smart and young African American woman or young and smart African American woman, so they're pretty coordinate, okay? So there you go. There's a little overview of modifiers, adverbs, and adjectives. Adverbs, again, modify a verb, most end in ly. Adjectives modify a noun or another adjective. And I even folded in a little bit about compounds and series and Oxford commas, coordination and non-coordination, also known as subordination. And that's a wrap. That's all I'm going to say about it in this webinar. And you will be seeing some exercises if you're in my BCC classes, definitely on Applia or whatever software we're using when you listen to this, whatever semester it is, okay? All right. I hope you found this interesting. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.